happy December. I absolutely love this time of year. I am not Adam. My name is Billy, if you're visiting. And Adam, our normal preacher, he is down in Southern California. He asked me back in September to cover for him today. He asked me prior to the series that he just recently finished up with called Love Is. And as hap circumstance has it, it's going to tie in quite well. I wasn't sure what to title this morning's message because I knew I was going to be talking about love and wisdom and a wedding. So being quite creative, I've entitled it Love, Wisdom, and a Wedding. Many, many months prior to being asked to preach today, I was honored by my son Caleb and his fiancée Stevie to officiate their wedding. And on September 21st, I married them both in Happy Valley, Oregon. Now, if you're preparing for something like officiating a wedding, there is a ton of ideas that you have and thoughts, and there's emails going back and forth, and there's phone calls, questions, details, how long should it be? Do you want this to be funny or do you want it to be somber? Can we put in personal stories or are we just going to be general? So as I got more close to the details of the event, working it out with them, I found they let me know that from the time that the music started to the very end of the I do's and a kiss, they said it was to be 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, 15, 20 minutes, that includes the time the music starts, family seated, yes. Okay, and you guys are going to exchange vows? Yeah. How many pages? Well, there are a couple of pages each. Okay, and that also includes you guys having communion together? Yes. 15 to 20 minutes? Okay, that leaves me with maybe 5 to 7 minutes to compress 25 years of marriage, knowledge, and experience and package it into this wisdom to impart to them, which they wouldn't be hearing anyway. When I got married, 6 months later, I'm asking Jen, now who was it again that married us? I don't recall. But so I knew that I had a limited time. So this morning, what I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you what I was originally going to be sharing with them, but didn't have enough time to do so. So there's a few more things added to this that I didn't have time. Now, just a note, I've never, in all my years of preaching for several decades, I have never preached and I've never talked about marriage and relationships. This will be a first. And I also want you to know that some of the things that I'm going to share with you, none of it's original by me. It's been gleanings over a decade and a half of stuff that I have gathered. And I want to share it with you because I believe it has the potential to be life-changing. And I'm not just saying that. I truly believe it has that potential. My wife, Jennifer, and I have reaped the benefits for some 25 years this next July for having followed the principles I'm about to share. Now, I know what you may be thinking, all you need is Jesus, right? Let me tell you, I need more than Jesus. I need more, not just Jesus. I need my wife. I need you. And, to your shock, you need me. We need each other. That's the way God designed it. It's part of His plan. I need my wife. WWJD, what would Jenny do? I ask myself that frequently. She's saved me many, many times. But if all we need is Jesus, then what are we all doing here? Because we could be at home praying through the Holy Spirit to Jesus and God if that's all we need. But we need one another. And if you are married, you need your spouse. God designed it this way. In Proverbs 18:1, He says, a man who isolates himself meddles with all sound wisdom. So we do need each other. This is not for married couples, but for those who are considering marriage. This message as well is for singles or singles again. And if you're a teenager, I really want you to pay close attention to this. It applies to you as well. This is not all-inclusive, but I believe it's pillars to a successful marriage. And not just an outward appearance for those looking in. You know, you can have the appearance of a good marriage when people look on and think, wow, boy, they've really got it together. Aren't they a cute couple? Wow, look at them. But let me ask you, what about people in your own house? What about people who are closest to you? What would they say about your marriage? What is their observation of it? The best compliment I believe that I have ever been paid, or my wife and I have ever been paid, has been one of our boys saying to their mom, when I get married, I want to have a marriage just like you and Dad. That right there, that is where the rubber meets the road. That is the highest compliment, is people who are closest to see the behind the scenes, the warts, freckles, and all, to say, wow, I want to be like that. And it's nothing that we are superheroes by any means. I'm telling you, it's these principles I'm going to share. Some history. There was a time in my life where I was not going to get married. And this wasn't when I was like 6 and 7. This is college age. I was not going to get married because why would I if it made you miserable? I saw what was happening around me. I saw multiple divorces. I saw somebody who I looked up to in my early 20s. I remember they were in church. I remember the day that they announced their divorce. And it shocked me. And I said, wow, if they're not going to make it, if they can't make it in a marriage, they're in the church, how can anybody make it? And I remember thinking, it's like walking through a minefield as far as the eye can see, where every other step is fatal and caustic to you. You don't seem to have much of a chance. To make it through this minefield, it would have to be supernatural in design. So, here is your supernatural outline for this morning. A fish, woodworking, triangles, and a stool. Principle number 1, pictured by the fish. Let's start with asking the question, what is love? Love is what has brought marriages together. Just as I told Caleb and Stevie, both of you are going to say to each other many times today and in the future, I love you. But we also say, I love December. I love Christmas. I love your dress. I love this weather. But when we say, I love you, what are we really, really saying? In our culture, we often apply the word love to most everything. I recently heard Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twersky ask, he said, young man, why are you eating the fish? Because I love fish, he replied. Oh, you love fish. That's why you took it from the water, you killed it, you boiled it, and you ate it. No, don't tell me you love the fish. You don't love the fish, you love yourself. And because the fish tastes good to you, therefore, you took it out of the water, you killed it, you boiled it, and you ate it. So much of what is love is fish love. A young man and a woman falls in love. What does this mean? It means that he saw in this woman someone whom he felt he could provide him with all of his physical and all of his emotional needs. And she felt that in this man is someone that can provide the same, and we say, now that is love. But each one is looking out for their own needs, and that is not love for the other, but rather the other becomes the vehicle for my own gratification, for their own gratification. So much of love today is fish love, but an external love is not what I'm going to get, but rather what I'm going to give. People make the serious mistake in thinking that you give to those whom you love. But the real answer is you love to those whom you give. Because if I give you something, then I've invested myself in you. And since self-love is a given, we all love ourselves. We all care for ourselves. Now that part of me has become part of you, then there's part of me in you that I love. So true love is the love of giving, not a love of receiving. That's why Jesus told us, he said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Principle number 1 is this. True love is one that gives. So never let a day go by that you are not giving to the other. Principle number 2, pictured by woodworking. There's a scripture that says, what God has joined, let no man separate. From the beginning, in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, God said, it is not good for man to be alone. And he took a bone from Adam to create Eve. Now you may recognize this man's name, Matthew Henry. He wrote the Matthew Henry Commentators. He was in the 1600s, died in the 1700s. Very famous nonconformist minister. He said, the woman was made of a rib out of the side of Adam, not made out of his head to rule over him, nor out of his feet to be trampled upon by him, but out of his side to be equal with him, under his arm to be protected, and near his heart to be beloved. Later it reads in Genesis chapter 2, in verse 24, it says, after he created Eve for Adam, he said, for this reason a man shall leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave or be joined to his wife. The term cleave, this term is used to describe joinery as in woodworking, and it's a synergistically joined union. Synergistic in the sense that both pieces of wood become stronger together than either one piece could ever be on their own. And that's what this is describing. There's three requirements for cleaving or joining two pieces of wood in this fashion. The first one is you have to have a prepared surface area. No gaps in between the two pieces of wood. If there's a gap, then that is where the failure will occur. So how do you get two pieces of wood to cleave and be joined? It involves saws, it involves chiseling and scraping and sanding until both pieces fit like a glove, not just one individual piece. Both pieces must be cleaved together, so both pieces get worked on. Now, you have to have a second thing. You have to have a binding agent. This binding agent in woodworking is glue. And as I was taking classes on this, the instructor said, never be stingy. Get that stuff on there, lather it on, because I was trying to save some. He said, the area that's missing glue, that is where the breaking point will occur. It requires a third, is pressure. And that's where you put clamps on. And do you put so much pressure on that you damage it? No. The woodworking clamps can actually crush a piece of wood. The idea is not to crush or damage the masterpiece. So I asked the instructor, well, how much pressure should I put on? He said, you'll know it's enough pressure when you see the glue squeezing out of every joint. Likewise, the principles of these requirements apply for couples to cleave together. Prepared surface area. Now, I'm not talking about a gym and getting in shape here, okay? We're talking about no gaps in our lives. Your lives must fit together. Both individuals require sanding and sawing areas of our own lives specifically for the purpose of the other to fit. Well, she needs to change. Well, he needs to change and fit my life better. Well, to the both I say 1 Corinthians 7:4. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but yields it to her husband. In the same way, the husband does not have authority over his body, but yields it to his wife. Your life is not your own, but you belong to the other. Now, this is talking about physical relations here, but there's a principle there. It says you're not your own. When you become married, when you are cleaved to a spouse, you become part of them, owned by them. You are synergistic. Therefore, each has to do their part in shaping the other to cleave, in shaping one another. Your carpentry skills are not meant for your spouse. They're meant for you, for your own life. But you can be doing this together. And it is important, I believe, to do this together. How? Early on in Jen and I's marriage, we purposed that every single year we would either read a book, go to a seminar, watch a video series together, something related to marriage and relationships. Now, have we kept that pattern for 25 years? No, we haven't. But there has been so many things that we have covered. I remember we received a wedding present years ago. His needs, her needs. I would always tease Jen, where's that book, My Needs, My Needs? But it's his needs, her needs. Now, if you see the subtitle, Building an Affair-Proof Marriage. When we got that as a wedding present, I thought, what? Who would get this for somebody's wedding present? How to have an affair-proof marriage. right? You know, hey, congratulations, mazel tov, all that type of stuff. Now remember, you can't be singing on Sunday and shacking on Monday, okay? Here, read this book and don't cheat on her. Seriously? So I read that book after our 10-year anniversary, and I couldn't sleep one night, so I pulled this thing off the shelf, and I start flipping pages. And I'm thinking, yeah, oh, right. Hey, honey, wake up. Are you awake? Yeah, I'm awake. You were coughing and hacking. I know I swallowed one of the dust bunnies, taking this off the shelf. You got to hear this stuff. This is really good stuff here. There is a number of, she later told me, she said, you know who got that for us, don't you? No. Keith and Marcy Cook. I don't know if you guys remember that. I thought, well, giddy up. Leave it up to Keith to offend me on my wedding day. But today, I look back and I say, Keith, Marcy, thank you. Awesome read. It made a huge impact. And since then, I have bought a number of these hard copies. And if I'm giving money for a wedding, I get small bills and I stick it in between every page and present it to the couple. And I say, you can't take it out unless you make it to that point. And you have to read this book. It's a game changer. Dr. Kevin Lehman, we attended some of his seminars, and several of them, and awesome material. The late Gary Smalley, miss him. He is an awesome teacher, awesome man. Loving relationships. We saw that, 15, 20 years ago, we still reference stuff from that video series that we saw. And I can't tell you the number of hours, hundreds, if not thousands of hours of Dr. James Dobson that we have listened to and read over the years. Probably one of the most important things that you can do. Today, Jen and I have read together out loud from Genesis 1:1 to the final chapters of 1st and 2nd maps and the Gospel according to concordance of our Bibles. That was one of our goals, and we accomplished that, and we'll do it again. And if you haven't done that as a couple, I would encourage you, not individually, but together, to read it out loud together. You need not only to have the pre-requirements, you need a binding agent. And this binding agent is none other than Jesus Christ. And you pile it on every single area of your lives. The area that is missing this binding agent will be the weak breaking point. Well, what do you mean, Billy? You know, this is something private that, my spouse and I have just between us. It's our thing we do. We go to church and all, but, this area, it's just for us. We leave church out of this part of our lives. Let me ask you, I've talked to a number of people and couples over the years that have this mindset. You put Jesus in every single nook and cranny of both of your lives. And if you have to leave Jesus at home or in the backseat of your car before you go and do what you both are going to do, then I've got to ask, why are you both going to go do it? You may think that it's the strong point in your marriage because you are in agreement and take joy in it, whatever it may be. You fill in the blanks. There's a number of them. But it will be the weak area, and it will be a breaking point eventually. And I cannot emphasize and warn you enough, stay away from it. 1 Corinthians 10:31. He said, whether then you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God. If you have to leave Jesus at home, then might I suggest, just stay at home. Just stay at home. You need Jesus as the binding agent in every area of your life. One of my favorite verses, Colossians 1:17. He is before all things. There's not private areas of life that we just leave Jesus out of this one. We go to church, but He is before all things. And in Him, all things hold together. Jesus Christ is your binding agent. Don't let an area of your life not be covered with Him. You not only need a binding agent, you need pressure. Well, how are we going to find sources of pressure? Well, don't look for it, you dumb cabbage. It's going to find you, trust me. Life happens. It just plain happens. The pressure will come. James 1:2 says, remember we studied James, he tells us, when you face trials of many kinds, you won't have to look for it. It's going to find you. But when it does come, just like glue, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, squeezes out, running all over both your lives. And when the pressure increases, the more that Jesus will come out. Now, does God use extreme pressure? No. Just like in cleaving two pieces of wood, the object isn't to damage them. God doesn't want to damage us. What He wants is Jesus Christ coming out every area of our life. That's when God knows it's enough pressure. God is He's not interested in crushing you. He's interested in you being happy and having Jesus cover your lives. Well, we just haven't had to face many challenges, and we've been married for years. Some may say, well, we just haven't faced any challenges. We've been married for years. Let me ask you, do you have any kids? Oh, you do. 4, 5, and 7? Get ready. There is a storm coming. A storm. It's like, picture Jacob Marley warning Ebenezer Scrooge. A storm's coming. Why do you doubt your senses, Be warned. And once your lives have been prepared and you've been glued together by Jesus and you have been bonded by the pressures of this life, to separate would never be a clean break, but would damage both pieces with such destruction that even those things closest by are damaged. That's why Scripture says in Matthew 19:6, what God has joined, what God has cleaved, let no man separate. It is a lasting, permanent bond. It is a covenant. I told my wife, for better, for worse, we are in this for the long haul. And if this ship goes down, guess what? We're going down with it. I hope you like this because you're going to be stuck with it for some time. We are in this for the long haul. Burn the dock behind us. Set fire to the crops. We're not coming back. This is not an agreement. This is not a contract. It is a God-ordained covenant. Divorce is not an option. Now, let me be clear on something. To say divorce is not an option is not said with any attitude of, oh, well, this will never happen to us because we're better than that. Nothing is further from the truth. Rather, it is said with the understanding that it could happen to me, to us, to any one of you here. And for many, it has. 1 Corinthians 10:12 says, therefore let him who thinks he stands take heed that he does not fall. Right when you think something is going to happen to you, boom, what happened? It happened. To adapt Dave Ramsey, his analogy of the gazelles, the gazelle is always being hunted by the cheetah. The gazelle, therefore, has his cheetah radars up. He's always looking around, always scanning, drinking water, looking around. What was that? Okay. Goes back down, drinks some water, looks up. They are always on the lookout, always having their radars going, aware, never slack, knowing at any moment, when least expected, they are in imminent danger of death. An oblivious gazelle is a dead gazelle. They are always on the lookout. 1 Peter 5:8 tells us, be of sober spirit. Be on the alert. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. There's nothing more that he would like to see in godly marriages is to disintegrate and to dissolve them. And it does happen, and you have to be ever vigilant. Always be aware to protect the marriage from the imminent danger of death. For what God has joined, let no man separate. Principle number 2 is this. Marriage is a permanent covenant. Principle number 3, pictured by triangles. I call this the triangle of marriage. As two lives form into one, if your focus is on the wrong things, it is so easy to drift apart. You're so close on the marriage day, and then all of a sudden, focus gets diverted on kids. Focus gets diverted on a career. So easy to focus on the wrong thing. I remember when Jen and I, we were just dating, and I think it was Lindemans. We were having a couple of raspberry cappuccinos, and I remember drawing this principle out on a napkin and discussing it. Picture, if you will, a triangle, a trinity, with a man and a woman at the base and Christ at the top as the main focus. Now, some would say the main focus should be each other. No, the main focus is not each other. People change in your lives, and paths can soon drift apart. I've seen it happen all around me, as you have too, and you end up divorced. But God told us, I am the Lord thy God, I change not. As each of you would focus on Jesus, the true anchor, and draw closer to him, you will inevitably draw closer to each other. It's just the nature of a triangle. Principle number 3, fix your eyes on Jesus, not on each other. The fourth final principle, the three-legged stool. I call this the three-legged stool of marriage. Christ loves us with everything, as you are to love each other with everything. With your body, love each other with your soul, love each other with your spirit. The best analogy I've heard over the years is that of the three-legged stool. If you have a stool with only 2 legs, you're going to be a shaky balancing act. You don't have much of a chance. If you have a leg with only one leg on it on the stool, well, good luck. You're on a pogo stick. But with 3 legs, you're going to be stable. The 3 legs is the body, the soul, and the spirit. Examples. A young man and woman are both seeking God. That's spirit. They have a good time together and laugh a lot. That's soul. But they're just not attracted to each other. That's body. That's a 2-legged stool. Now, it doesn't mean you need to be a hard body and a beauty queen. It means that for relations, there needs to be an attraction. It is part of the design. Here's another one. 2 people are on fire for God. That's spirit. And they're really, really attracted to each other. That's body. But personality-wise, they just don't click. They don't have much of any conversation at all. That's soul. You're going to have issues there. That's a 2-legged stool. There will be challenges to overcome. The Bible uses several different words for love in Scripture. In the original language, we say, I love December, I love your dress. The Bible's very specific, and it uses different words for loves. And the words for love can represent each one of these legs. The first one is eros love, of which applies to body. If you're wondering what eros is, it's from the term of which we get erotic. That's what it comes from, and it's what you think it is. This is romance. It is passion. It is dopamine in its finest, and it is good. It is needed, and furthermore, it is from God. So celebrate in it, but do so in the context of marriage, because that is the recipe. That is how it is designed for lasting fulfillment. This one leg of this stool is the fixation with our society today, and often the only leg that they think exists. It's glorified in our songs, in our movies, in our advertisements. It's basically a one-legged stool is the way society looks at it. This is what I call the double bubble mindset I've mentioned before. Double bubble gum, you take a piece, it's great at first, loses its flavor, you spit it out and move on to the next one. This is what our society does, because they're always looking for that new, fresh, vibrant romance, that new, fresh taste. This is shallow, it is empty, and it will always left to be desired. This empty desire leads to a quest for fulfillment. So enters pornography. Porn will rob any future pleasure. We don't have time to go through each verse, but Proverbs chapter 5, I would encourage all of you to read Proverbs chapter 5. It warns against this and what happens. It doesn't use the word porn, it doesn't use the word pornography, but it describes it quite well. They didn't use that term back then, but it says that it leads even to death. Now here's the deception. The death is not just physical, it is the death of a relationship. It is the death of communication. the death of satisfaction, the death of intimacy, fulfillment, companionship, friendship. Why would you want that? But it's just calling me. It's desirable. I just can't seem to stop doing that. Envision 2 chocolate cakes. The first chocolate cake is made with the finest ingredients. Sugar in the raw, Ghirardelli chocolate, See's chocolates made the frosting for it. It's beautiful, looks awesome. Identical cake sitting right by it, but we ran out of ingredients, so we substituted drywall plaster for the flour. We couldn't find the sugar, so salt looks the same. We put salt for the sugar, and we used the icing. We almost had enough, not quite, so we mixed it. What with? Well, we had some axle grease in the garage, but look how gorgeous it looks. It looks better than the original. Take a bite of it, see what happens. What you'll find is that it leaves you wanting. God gave us an original recipe, a recipe for lasting fulfillment and happiness. To substitute one ingredient is like substituting salt in chocolate cake. If you alter the recipe, it'll taste off. It'll make you sick. It'll never fulfill you, and it'll leave you empty and hungry, wanting more. So what happens? You try to get more, and it's a cyclic pattern. This is why I didn't want to get married. Not because I was into porn, because I saw people with the cyclic pattern of trying to have happiness, and I thought, you guys are miserable. Why do I need this? I'm going to get my degree. They're hiring in Alaska. I'm going to go hunting and fishing. That was my plan. It really was. And then Jen came along and said, no, you're not. So we didn't. But Satan's deception and lie is this. The forbidden is the best. That's why it's forbidden. Listen, sin is not bad because God forbids it. God forbids it because sin is bad. Do you see the difference? He wants us to be satisfied and fulfilled. So the first leg is the body, eros. The second leg is phileo, love. This represents the soul. This is friendship, love. As in the name, the city that was named after it, Philadelphia, the city of friendship. Be best friends. My best prescription for couples is this. Loosen up and laugh. Have fun together. This phileo love is also an elderly couple content to sit together. Not saying anything, just smiling because they're happy to be together. Years ago, I worked at, some of you may recognize Brahms Ice Cream, a southern chain, Yukon, Oklahoma. Brahms Ice Cream, and there was this elderly couple in their 80s, and they would come in, and every Tuesday between 5 and 6, and they would order the same hamburgers, 2 pickles, mustard, nothing else. And then they would order 2 ice cream cones. What would they order? Vanilla. Really? We got Death by Chocolate, Goo Goo Cluster. I mean, we got all. I tried talking you into something else one time, and no, that's all right. We'll just take the vanilla. Boring. And I would sit there in my extreme wisdom at 17 years old, and I would watch this couple across. And they wouldn't say anything. And they'd be sitting there, and they would eat their hamburger, and they'd just look up at each other and smile. And occasionally they reach over and touch each other's hand. And they would just go back to eating. And she would always sit. She never did anything. He would always get up, and he'd get the 2 cones and come back. And they would sit down and just look at each other and smile. And I thought, how sad. What a waste. You guys don't even talk. That's because I was 17. And help, I'm talking, I can't shut up. And so that was my viewpoint of what a successful relationship is. You're always talking. This couple, I look back today, and man, with this couple, I say, oh God, help me to be like that couple. Help me to have that type of intimacy to where they have had such adventures, such journeys together, memories, history, joys and tears, laughs, everything that they've had together, that they don't have to fill every moment with words. They are so connected together. Their spirits are connected. Now, I didn't know for certain. I wasn't sure, but I would venture to say by the countenance of their face, by the lives that I saw just from them sitting in a restaurant, I would say that they definitely had the third leg. The third leg is agape love, representing the leg spirit. This is the greatest love only found in Jesus Christ. It is God's love and the love that allowed Christ to die for us. In fact, husbands, you have a special challenge in Ephesians. It says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church, as Christ agape'd the church and gave himself up for her. We men are challenged. God says, these others are important. Husbands, you focus on this. You need to love your wife with agape level love. A level of love that you cannot find in any other source except through Jesus Christ. The binding agent. The legs, the body, the soul, and the spirit are interconnected. Each one is interconnected with rungs between each leg, and that further stabilizes it. Eros is fully connected to phileo. Romance and friendship go hand in hand. Men, if you want Eros lighting off fireworks in your home, maybe you need to focus on phileo. Maybe you need to concentrate on phileo and be her best friend, not just a lover. Wives, if you want more phileo and meaning relationship and friendship with your spouse, could it be that maybe you need to take an honest inward evaluation and look on your agape love and what you've done with what God tells you in the recipe? Principle number 4, balance the body, the soul, and the spirit, because each one of these is interconnected. Now, at this point in the ceremony with Caleb and Stevie, this is where I pronounce all of you man and wife. So men, you can turn to the person next to... No, don't kiss anybody. Awkward. Don't do that. But concluding this, these 4 things have been 25 years worth of learning and tears and laughs and joys that we've gleaned together. Again, it's not all inclusive. There's a lot that goes into each one of these sections that could be a seminar all of its own. And we've gone through seminars on sections of that. But each one of these 4 pillars, these 4 principles, has made such an impact in our marriage to where, knock on wood, we're cheetahs, we're looking around because Satan doesn't give up. But I tell you, this makes a difference, and it can do the same for you. Principle number 1 is this: true love is one that gives. Never stop giving to each other. Principle number 2, marriage is a permanent covenant. Principle number 3, fix your eyes on Jesus, not on each other. And principle number 4, balance your body, your soul, and your spirit, not placing too much emphasis on one. They are all interconnected. Look at all of them as a whole.